What's up, everyone? Sam Shaw here from Wall Street Mastermind. I am back here today with another client interview for you guys. Today, I'm excited to have Nathaniel here with us. Nathaniel just recently finished his summer 2021 recruiting process, which is very exciting. And wanted to get him to come on here and just kind of talk about his journey with you guys, share some advice and things like that. And hopefully you guys will get to pick up a thing or two, and that'll help you with your own process as well. So Nathaniel, thank you for just taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, of course, Sam. Happy to.
So to start out, maybe you can just give a quick introduction of yourself so that our listeners kind of get a sense of who you are.
Yeah. My name's Nathaniel Tran. I'm a current junior at the University of Notre Dame, and I'm double majoring in philosophy and applied math. Just going into Wall Street Mastermind, I had no finance experience. I'm actually the first person in my entire family to ever consider a career in finance. And I guess I'm here to talk about my journey with Wall Street Mastermind and how it's helped me.
Awesome. So let's go back to the very beginning then. So as you kind of just mentioned, you're the first person in your family who's kind of tried to break into finance. What made you want to go into finance? Since like no one from your family is really in that field, like what kind of turned you on to investment banking specifically?
Yeah. So I guess a quick note. I'm first generation in America, first generation immigrant, and so when my parents came over, they didn't really speak good English. So finance, you have to interact with like a decent amount of people. So I think that's like basically one of the requirements. So they didn't really have that option. And just seeing that my mom practiced law eventually, and my dad was an engineer, I kind of found that I don't know, I wanted to make a new path for myself, and so I decided to pursue finance. On the one hand, to make that new path, but on the other hand, also just to kind of provide a stable way to make money and actually give back to my parents.
Got it. Okay. Um, and so when you first started then, that makes a lot of sense, by the way. And I'm an immigrant myself, and so I can relate to a lot of the things that you said. Um, I mean, all parents give so much for their kids, but especially immigrant parents, I feel like they sacrifice so much to go to a completely different country with a different language, and just so that we can have a better life, right? And so, of course, like wanting
Mhm.
to give back, that's something that I can totally relate to. And so, when you first decided, okay, I want to get into banking, and then you probably started attempting, to whether it's getting relevant experience or landing interviews and whatnot. Like, take us back to how recruiting was going for you in the beginning, maybe before you kind of discover Wall Street National. Like, how were things going for you at the time?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just kind of funny to just think back about what I was doing and like how crazy, like how far I've come. But I guess looking back, I was kind of like not, I wouldn't say lazy, but I just didn't really have a path. It's the kind of thing where there's like a block in your mind that tells you like, oh, like here's an obstacle that you have to overcome before you can do this thing. And every time I knew I had to do what I had to do, like I knew I had to reach out to people in order to get an internship. So I go on LinkedIn and I'd just be like, how do I reach out to people? And I'd be like, I'd find a person, but then I'd be like, oh, I don't have any mutual connections. I guess I'll put it off to another day, or I guess I'll shoot them a cold message and stuff. And um, that kind of approach, like I just lacked the confidence. I lacked, I just didn't have the means to even like understand like how to reach out or what really went into reaching out in the first place. So I was just kind of like improvising, and it didn't really work out at all.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So how long did that go on for? Like, when did you first start thinking about recruiting for banking? Was that like freshman year? Was it sophomore year?
Yeah, I started thinking about recruiting for banking in the second semester of my sophomore year. And I know it's like conventionally late, uh, but I was running like a kind of entrepreneurial business on campus, a startup, and that really sparked my like that could just confirm my interest in going into finance. And just knowing that I was behind the curve with regard to recruiting, that's kind of like when I stumbled across Wall Street Mastermind and decided to give it a shot.
Got it. Okay. So you were feeling behind. It sounded like you were a little bit lost in terms of knowing how to like. I mean, you knew at a high level what you needed to do, but then when push came to shove, you didn't really know exactly how to do it. So then you would put it off. Then you discover Wall Street Mastermind. What made you want to, do something like Wall Street Mastermind? Because like obviously not everyone out there that's trying to break into banking uses a service like Wall Street Mastermind. Right? So like, what made you kind of like hop into the program, or like what was going through your mind when you made this decision?
hmm Yeah, the way I thought about it was, I mean, my son I had a lot of more time to think about it, especially just because I'd moved into quarantine from school. But Wall Street Mastermind is just kind of like um a summer course that you take basically, or just any class or seminar that you sign up for. That's kind of like what it is. You pay tuition and then you get what you pay for. I would say you get way more than you paid for. Honestly, I don't think any class can really give you that confidence and give you that kind of like go-getter attitude, or kind of stir it up inside of you as much as Wall Street Mastermind could. Um, but what really attracted me to it was knowing that Sam and his staff, his team, would be working with me like in the trenches, and helping me actually cultivate my skills like on a one-on-one level. And that level of access, I don't think you're really gonna find that anywhere else.
Mm, okay, got it. Couple of things I want to kind of drill down into that you just mentioned. So one, you said you don't think any class can give you that confidence and that go-getter attitude. How, how is it that Wall Street Mastermind does that though exactly? Because like, isn't that something that you just either have or you don't, or like what would you say changed once you came into the program, or like why did you become more confident, or why did you suddenly stop kind of like doing what you were doing before, which is like you said, it's like I know what I need to do, but I just didn't really do it. So all of a sudden now you're like doing everything you should be doing. Like what changed inside of you?
Yeah. And I guess to like preface my answer, I'll give a quick story. Like senior year, I told myself like I'm really bad at math. Like you're just either good at math or you're bad at math.
Mm-hmm.
But a good friend of mine at the time was just like, what are you talking about? Like good at math just means you put the reps in and you do the work. And some people just need like some kind of like a little push to get there. And I guess like Wall Street Mastermind is kind of the same way. I don't think anyone is just like born with confidence or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just like you haven't put the reps in. I wasn't putting in the reps in to step out of my comfort zone. I guess before Wall Street Mastermind, and now with like someone like Sam, to kind of like be there to hold me accountable and tell me like, what are you doing? Like, why didn't you message that guy? Your spreadsheet, like you you only submitted like you only sent 10 emails this week. Like that's like those are rookie numbers, like that kind of stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think that just having it's basically like a friend, just having a friend. I mean, I don't want to, so we are friends, I think, Sam, so
Yeah,
I don't
my
want to say
friend.
we're not. But
I'm friends with all my clients.
yeah, exactly. And having that friend there to hold you accountable, it's the same kind of thing where you had the confidence inside you the whole time. uh you just needed a little bit of structure, a little bit of discipline to get you there.
Got it. So is that accountability factor was really important for you? Sounds like, or really beneficial for you. Um, And then the other thing that you mentioned was like getting that one-on-one access, the type of access that you can't really get anywhere else. Can you describe that one-on-one access a little bit? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what were you doing with us, or how did you leverage that, I guess? And like, what exactly are you doing with us that you can't do anywhere else? Like, can I just
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I want to like specify a little bit um, on what I mean. I think specifically the one-on-one access with Sam and his staff. I think that is higher in quality than any other one-on-one access that you can get anywhere else. For example, I know that at my school's career center, the one-on-one access can be a little bit strange just because they're motivated to maximize like their like quote unquote yield, or like how many people get into Wall Street, how many, their relationships with the people, uh, with the firms that they just have relationships, alumni relationships with. But I think with Sam, just first of all, as an independent company, Wall Street Mastermind, it's not really buying into like a network with Wall Street. It's giving you the tools to break into that network of Wall Street. It's totally different, and Sam's like personally invested in your success and your ability to break into Wall Street. So I think that's one thing, is that he's incentivized to actually put in like blood, sweat, and tears into your journey. And then number two, quite literally, you just get to access him at any time of the day. Like he's messaged me at like 1 a.m. before, or like I've sent in a resume and then he's just spit it back at me with a ton of it's and just like all this commentary, like railing on how I wrote the first draft, like stuff like that. That's like the kind of one-on-one access that you're going to get with a Wall Street Mastermind. And yeah, it definitely shows that there was effort put into the feedback.
Man, you make me sound kind of mean, like I'm railing on your resume and yelling at you for not emailing people. I just want to clarify that I'm actually a very nice person. So, in case
I mean,
Nathaniel was giving people the wrong impression, okay? I will get on your case if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But yes, I
I
try to do it
mean,
in a nice way.
I mean, yeah. No, Sam's definitely a great guy. Um, but I mean, it's like Napoleon said. It's like he's like either a lion or a fox, and the art of government is knowing which one to be at which time. And I think Sam knows, like with when it comes to teaching and instructing, like he knows which one to be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I think you made a really good point there, which is just like, I think the biggest difference between Wall Street Mastermind and a lot of these other resources that you might have out there is just how invested we are in your outcome, right? Because we don't take on very many clients, and so every single client's outcome matters that much more to us, right? Like, because for us to maintain the success rate that we want to maintain, it's very, very hard to do, right? To like, we like to keep it above that 90% threshold, but like every time there's even one person that just doesn't get in, that moves the needle for us, right? Versus, it's not like we're working with thousands of clients and like you're just a rounding error, right? And so that's why
Mhm.
we're so invested. Like, we want everyone to succeed when they come to our program. That's why we don't work with more than 20 to 30 people actively at any given time, right? Like, actively as in like, when we're like teaching you everything and actively giving you feedback on all the stuff that you're doing. Of course, like, we provide ongoing support even after that phase, but that's why we do that, right? And then I think the other, like, really for anyone that's looking for help with anything, especially not to mention something as important as your career, I think one, you want someone that's going to be investing in your outcome, and two, you want someone who's qualified, right, or who has enough knowledge to actually help you, or like is qualified to help you. And a lot of times what you'll find is there are a lot of people out there that that'll have one but not the other, right? Like for example, you can go to an investment banker and maybe they're qualified to help you, but they don't really care about you and they don't have time to respond to your questions all the time or review your answers in detail or give you anything more than just like a quick 30-minute conversation. And there's only so much you can do in a 30-minute conversation, right? Or on the flip side, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can find, I don't know, like an upperclassman who's willing to spend more time with you than a banker would. Even then, they're probably not spending that much time with you, or definitely not as much as we would spend with you. But then, like, they're not as qualified because they're just a year above you, and maybe they've gone through the process one time, and they're a little more experienced than you, but they're not that much more experienced, right? And so the
Yeah.
quality of the feedback that you're getting is not as good as it could have been, right? And so it's really, really hard. What we've seen is really hard to kind of have the best of both worlds. And that's kind of what we want to provide for our clients here in Wall Street Mastermind, right? So yeah, that's a great point. So you then came into Wall Street Mastermind. I remember when you first came in, I think, like you were having trouble landing interviews. I think you didn't really have any finance experience on your resume. Um, Networking wasn't really going that well for you. And then I think also you didn't really have any experience with both like well, definitely not with technical interviews. You had no experience with that. And then with behaviorals, I think maybe you had a little bit of experience, but not a whole lot, right? So
Yeah. No, I didn't even know technical interviews were a thing for finance. It was actually ridiculous. But I mean, I will say one thing. Like you're good or you got good at something when you could actually like teach someone or like help them out with the material.
mm,
Um, and a lot of my friends ask me like, what's the best way to get into learning about this stuff? And I'd say like, um, Wall Street Mastermind really helped me and really gave me the tools to, I guess, learn all this stuff because, I mean, I saw on LinkedIn you put out a recent thing about like the sequencing of how to learn the technicals. And I think that's so true. Like I mean, I'm taking an accounting class now and I learned all this stuff through Wall Street Mastermind already. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I have some qualms with how the instructor's teaching. I think Sam did a way better job.
that's thank you. I appreciate that. I get that comment a lot, right? I had a client from Wharton, uh, and she was a senior at Wharton or a rising senior when she joined Wall Street Mastermind, and she went through one of our accounting trainings on the three statements and the one in the module that's like tying it all together. And it's like close
Hmm.
to 2 hours long. It's a 2 hour training that teaches you like everything you need to know about the three statements, right? And she basically sent me a message on Slack afterwards and was like, yeah, I learned more in those 2 hours than I learned in an entire semester of accounting at Wharton, which
Hmm.
I was super flattered when I heard that because Wharton is a hardcore like accounting finance school,
Yeah.
and for her to say something like that, I was just like, wow, okay, like that tells me that what we're doing is really working, right? And that gives me confidence that our clients are getting the best help that they could possibly get. So you came into the program then, and I think back in April, right? Back in
Hmm.
April of 2020, so like pretty late in your sophomore year.
Yeah.
We're recording this, I guess, 6 months later, right in October. And
Hmm.
so like, take us to like a high level timeline of like what happened during the last 6 months then. So you came in with no experience on your resume, didn't even know that technical interviews was a thing. And then like what did you work on and like how was that progression, I guess, and how did you get to ultimately where you are today?
Hmm. Yeah. And I'll start off. I know the exact date. So I started on April 11th. And the only reason why I know the exact date is because I was bullet journaling before then. I journal, okay, what do I have to do every single day? And it's like maybe like a 200-page journal, and I'd only gone through like a quarter of it. And from April 11th, I've cleared through the rest of the journal and like another journal as well with the amount of work that I've done with Wall Street Mastermind. So it's a lot of work that goes into Wall Street Mastermind, but Sam's there with you. With regard to what that work is, Sam works on your networking ability. He built a strong foundation for you. Like you got to have some eggs in the basket to make omelets in the first place. So he kind of gets you those eggs, and then you start cooking. You basically just start shooting out emails. He teaches you how to do all of this. Getting on calls. I think I got on over maybe 100 calls within these 6 months.
Wow.
I don't even know. I'm just pretty happy with the results. So I haven't even looked back at the spreadsheet for a while. But he really teaches you how to talk to people and what goes into like all these interactions. There's office hours every week, and if you want more, you can always schedule more with him, more one-on-one time. And during those office hours, you can ask whatever you want. You can even ask about life. Like, I mean, what 1 week, Sam works with another ex-investment banker named Adele. I mean, I just asked Adele, like, how are you doing today? And he's like, great. Like, we're all friends in the program. But he basically teaches you everything you need to know about the behaviorals as well, and the technicals. And I think that it's just so much better than, I mean, we have a Wall Street club on campus. I think that as opposed to just flipping through a 700-page like slideshow that the Wall Street Club gives you with no context at all. It's just so much better to just get that experience from an experienced investment banker like Sam.
Got it. So basically, we worked on all different aspects of recruiting with you. We also helped you. We also had to help you kind of beef up your resume a little bit, right? Because it was kind of lacking from a finance standpoint.
Yeah, I had no finance experience coming in to Wall Street Mastermind. But last summer 2020, I was able to work with a small private equity shop, and actually gain firsthand experience working in the finance field. And I think that speaks volume because the recruiting for that happened. I think it was like in May. I I got the internship in May, which is like at the last second. And I think that, I mean, in under a month, being able to get like a summer internship in finance with no relevant background, I think that speaks volumes to how effective Sam was.
Got it. Because you joined in April, which was only a month or two before you were going to start the summer, and you didn't have an internship lined up yet. You also don't have any past finance experience. And so to be able to have your first finance experience be something highly relevant like private equity, and to be able to get that in less than a month, basically just in the nick of time, I guess that's a game changer, because then otherwise you would have wasted your entire sophomore summer and had nothing to show for it on your resume, essentially.
Hmm. Exactly. It's funny just because like um you'll get all these like with Sam, you get like a very confident message like we're gonna help you get that internship. Like that's Sam putting all his like his all on the like he's going all in. But he be I mean he basically puts his money where his mouth is, and not only does he talk the talk, but he walks the walk. And I think like with the career center, you'll get kind of like hesitant wording like, look, and I will say this, you know, you're an aware person, like self-aware person, but you should also assess some of these options. Like, you know, I'm just saying like you signed up, you walked into the career center, you're asking for advice to achieve your goal. I think the best outcome that you can get is someone that is not trying to like quote unquote reassess your goal or having you rethink your goal, but just like saying like, I agree. Now let's get you there, or let's give it your all. And I think that's what you're gonna get from Sam.
Yeah, or like you don't want someone else to try to get you to lower your goals just so that it becomes easier to accomplish. You want someone to allow you to set whatever goals you have and then do the hard work that's necessary to help you get to that goal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so then how is the recruiting process like for you then? Because like, okay, so you do this summer internship, during the summer of 2020 as a sophomore summer, and then obviously you're recruiting for banking, but like you said, that's kind of late in the process, right? Like a lot of the, especially nowadays, a lot of the bulge bracket or even elite boutique banks, they start halfway through sophomore year, right? So, what
Hmm.
was the process like for you in terms of, um, you networking, applying, getting interviews? Like, how many interviews did you have to go through before you got an offer? Kind of like talk to people about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess to preface this, during the summer internship, the 2020, this past summer internship, I it, I think that really sparked an interest on like a slightly more entrepreneurial side um, to valuation. And Sam teaches all the valuation stuff, and it's basically it not only applies to investment banking, but to just anywhere in finance, just because valuation is valuation. Um, and so I was originally gunning it super hard for investment banking. Got a super day with a bulge bracket bank. But at the same time, I was in the recruiting process for a couple of growth equity firms. And eventually, one of them gave me an offer after like it was really funny because they never told me like when the final round interview would be. So it was like I think it was like my fifth or sixth interview with them, which I was like already like, wow, like I made it this far, pretty cool. Like would have never done this last year. But on like I don't know the fifth or the sixth, they were like, hey, we think you're a super cool guy. We'd love to have you on board and work with us. And I took the offer 2 weeks ago. Basically, it was a long process, going through like a lot of interviews with like totally different types of banks and firms, but uh, I'm really happy with the outcome.
Got it. So basically, you recruit for banking, but also you decided you want to maybe just try to recruit for directly for the buy side as well, and more specifically within growth equity, since you do come from a more entrepreneurial background where you kind of had your own little startup, and growth equity firms tend to work with a lot of earlier stage companies, and so that felt like a
Hmm.
better match for kind of what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it felt like a better match of what I wanted to do, and something that I recognize too, because like I think like it. Suppose I didn't do Wall Street Mastermind, I could have brute. Anything's possible in life. Impossibility is it's just like it's an unintelligible word, but I could have just picked up a finance book and just started pounding through like bam, 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 like that. But I didn't have the foundation to do that.
Yeah.
It's like shooting in the dark, spray and pray. But then after Wall Street Mastermind, I spent around like however many months I was with Sam. But after that, on the side, I was also reading these finance books, and it was total black and white difference because I picked one up before. It was like reading a totally different language to me. Now reading a finance book, I'm like, this is fun. This is the stuff I love.
Mm.
Um, and so I think that's like another thing that went into my decision is just I know with growth equity I would have gotten some experience like talking to a lot of high level people like some CEOs at some companies, and just being able to pick their brains. But also Wall Street Mastermind already gave me a really good sense of like how to go about learning about finance as well. And so I felt like I could also do that anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does absolutely. And so with this growth equity interview process, since we're on this topic, I think what would be um, kind of useful for our listeners is if you can kind of, because you've gone through the banking interview processes and then you went through this growth equity interview process, how much overlap was there, did you find, or like what was different about those two different types of interviews, if anything?
Hmm. Um, I think the overlap was really in the behavioral side of the interviews. I had a case study in the growth equity interview process as well, and I think that Wall Street Mastermind really helped me understand how to approach that, at least like with a critical thinking, from the critical thinking aspect. But largely, a lot of the growth equity questions were assessing like how do you convey yourself to another person. Um, uh, I guess what are your strengths and weaknesses, and being able to answer those questions in a really comprehensive manner. I think that Sam was an integral part in helping me be able to actually convey my own story, because I think everyone has their own story. And you can really, it's really tempting to play it safe and just give like a generic answer like, oh, my weakness is I'm a perfectionist. Anyone can see through that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that Sam really kind of like pulls out of you these things that you didn't really recognize about yourself or had recognized but didn't really know how to convey. um, I think that those like specific strengths and weaknesses, or being able to convey how you told your story, I think that's a really powerful um, takeaway that I had from Wall Street Mastermind.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the case study on the growth equity side. We don't typically see a lot of case study type questions for banking interviews. So, can you talk a little bit about what specifically that entails? Like, what is a case study question? Like, or can you give us an example of what question they asked you on that part?
Yeah, it was actually a really loose thing. They were just like, give me 5 companies, give me analysis on 5 companies and why they'd be a good investment for the firm.
Oh,
And at that point, just the role of an investment banker is to, I guess, have a valuation on a company and defend it using certain valuation techniques. And since valuation like plays upon the same principles, I think that um, Sam really gave me like the foundation to be able to just apply those principles anywhere where it could be applied. Um, and that's how I just applied those principles to the case study, and uh, I guess I did a good job because I'm going to be a summer analyst next year.
yeah.
Um, but I think that's another advantage of working with Sam, is that you understand the justification behind every single thing that goes into valuation, or can ask about the justification about things that go into valuation, as opposed to kind of like understanding, oh, like EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, debt, and amortization. Like, okay, like I guess that's just the name, but I don't understand like why it's valuable. Maybe as opposed to EBIT in certain industries, like stuff like that. Like you probably won't learn it in your accounting class. You're just going to learn what the terms mean.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, what's your plan then? Like, so you're gonna intern there for your junior summer, and then if all goes well, you just skip the whole banking thing and just go straight to growth equity after you graduate, or what are you kind of thinking?
Yeah, yeah, that's I can't put it better. So I can't put in any better words. So yeah, that's basically the plan.
Okay, got it. Um, and so I guess just one last. I mean, I think that's a great plan, by the way. I mean, a lot of people they actually go through banking first with the intention of exiting to the buy side anyway, right? Which is kind of
Hmm.
it's the most common way to get to the buy side, to use banking as kind of a stepping stone. And a lot of these PE or growth equity firms, they oftentimes won't hire people straight out of college. But I think we're starting to see more and more firms to start hiring college students right out of undergrad now, and or even having some of these summer analyst programs. But it's still pretty rare. But to the extent that, I mean, like for someone like you who's able to find something like that right off the bat, you can just skip over the hours in banking and the
Hmm.
horrible work life balance. It's like, hey, why not, right? And so that's definitely an exciting thing for you, I'm sure. Um, I guess one other question for you um, before we kind of wrap things up here, but what is if you could only give one piece of advice to maybe people who are just starting to go through the recruiting process now, maybe they're sophomores, or maybe they're kind of where you were when you first started. Like, what's one piece of advice that you wish someone else could have given you, back when you were just starting to go through this process that would have helped you tremendously had you known about it earlier? Because like hindsight is always 2020, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm sure you know a lot more now than what you knew back then. But like, what's something that you would want people to know?
Yeah. Um, I mean that's a good question. I think the one thing that everyone should really live by. I mean, this just coming from a philosophy major. Some philosopher out there probably disproved me already. But just like be bold. Um, for me, it took Wall Street Mastermind to really bring out, my boldness and my energy when it came to career search and learning about things when it came to finance. Um, but really, just in life, just be bold. Understand that if you want something, just do it. Like, what is stopping you? Probably 90% of the time, it's you telling yourself, like, I have this thing, so I'll do it tomorrow, or I, I'll stop playing this video game when I get to a reasonable place to click pause, that kind of thing. Ignore that. Like that voice in your head is just an obstacle in your life, and just really just go for it. Like that's my advice. It sounds like fluff, but just from hindsight, like it's probably the best advice I could give.
Yeah. No, and that's great advice. I mean, look, having the right mindset, I think, is very, very important, especially for something like investment banking recruiting or buy side recruiting, where it's just such a grueling process. Um, and there's a lot of setbacks and failures even along the way, or what seems like failures, at least while you're going through it. And I think it's
Hmm.
just, there's so many different ways, or so many reasons why someone might either give up on the process halfway through or just not see it all the way through, right? And so having the right mindset and right mentality, I think, is half the battle. And so I think you're very on point there in saying, being bold. It's definitely important. Like, you have to go out and get whatever it is that you want, right? Like, nothing's gonna be handed to you, right? And so
Hmm.
I think that's great advice. So I guess, for those of you who are listening, my biggest takeaway from just kind of having this chat with Nathaniel just now is just that, look, even if you maybe start a little bit later, even if you maybe don't have any finance experience at the moment, you might be sitting there thinking like, well, yeah, getting into investment banking or getting into growth equity or private equity, that'd be great, that'd be amazing, but can I really do it? Because I see this a lot with students that just have self-doubt, or even if you go on forums like Wall Street Oasis and there's all these people telling like, you have to have a 4.0 GPA from Harvard, or otherwise like you can forget about it. Like, there's all these people that tell you what you can or can't do, and it's like Nathaniel says, like, there's nothing you can't do. But one, you have to commit yourself to doing it, and two, there's probably things that even if you want to do it, you don't know how to do it. Then what you have to do is not just sit around and try to figure it out on your own, because chances are most likely you're not going to be able to figure it out. But what you need to do is go out, get the help that you need, and not just any help, because you could get help from a lot of places. You go to Career Center, you can go to the Ivy Club on campus, and I'm not saying that like you should do all that. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you want the best help, then try to find someone. It doesn't have to be Wall Street Mastermind. It could be Wall Street Mastermind, but it doesn't have to be. But at least like find someone who's one going to be invested in your outcome and actually is going to give a crap whether you get the job or not, and two, um, find someone who's actually qualified to be giving you advice, right? Because you don't want to get advice from the wrong people, and have them steer you down the wrong path, and ultimately you're the one who's going to have to live with the results, not them, right? So you have to choose carefully, and um, if you have those two things, then I think you're going to accomplish something that's much greater than what you would have been able to accomplish on your own, right? So hopefully, you guys are able to find something like that for yourself. Maybe it's someone around you. I don't know. Maybe it's a family member or a friend that you have, or I don't know, right? Just someone who's willing to take you under their wings. However, if you're not able to find something like that, and that is something that you feel like you need and you want, then we're available, and you know happy to help you as well, right? We can't help everybody, right? Like I said earlier, we're actively working with no more than 20, 30 people at a time. We have a very small team. But we're always happy to at least just have an initial conversation with you to see if it would be a good fit. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And if it is, of course, happy to have you in the program and put you through the exact same process that Nathaniel went through. If it's not a good fit, or if we don't think we're going to be the best people to help you, we'll at least just give you some advice on what we think you should do, or what we think we would
Mhm.
do if we were in your shoes, right? So uh, if that's something that you would like to do, I would just encourage you to, you can book a free strategy session with our team, and you can do that by going to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street is abbreviated to ST, so it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And yeah, just pick a time on our calendar that works for you. Our calendar does get pretty busy and fills up pretty quickly, so it's first come, first serve. And we look forward to speaking with you, and hopefully at least helping you a little bit on what is a very challenging and grueling journey that is investment banking recruiting. All right. So, with that said, Nathaniel, I want to thank you for just coming on here today and sharing your experiences with everyone. And I can honestly say you're one of the most funny and quirky clients out of all the clients I've ever worked with, and it's just been fun, man. It's been fun working with you, and I'm super happy for you that you got the outcome that you were able to get, and I can't wait to see all the success that you have going forward. And I'm sure you're not going to be a stranger, so just let's be in touch, and feel free to continue to leverage us as a resource if you ever need help with anything.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Sam. And no, yeah, no, seriously, thank you. I mean, it's definitely been really fun working with you um and everyone else at Wall Street Mastermind, and I'll definitely keep in touch.
Awesome, man. Well, that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back with more of these in the near future. And we'll talk to you next time. All right, bye.